I arrived at my daughter's wedding venue, my heart swelling with pride and emotion. This was supposed to be the happiest day of our lives. But as I approached the entrance, the wedding organizer rushed toward me with a panicked expression. "Don't go in yet," she warned, her voice urgent and tense. I froze in place, confused and alarmed. What could possibly be happening inside? My daughter's wedding was about to begin, and I was being told to stay outside. The organizer's face was pale, her hands trembling as she blocked my path. "Please, just wait here for a moment," she insisted, glancing nervously back at the venue entrance. My mind raced with terrifying possibilities. Was something wrong with my daughter? Had there been an accident? Through the doors, I could hear music playing and guests chatting, everything seemingly normal. But the organizer's desperate expression told a different story. When she finally whispered what was happening inside, my blood ran cold. The betrayal I was about to discover would shatter everything I believed about my family. What I saw when I finally walked through those doors changed my life forever. I had been dreaming about this day for 25 years. From the moment I held my baby girl in my arms, I imagined walking her down the aisle, seeing her in a beautiful white dress, watching her start her own family. Every sacrifice I made as a single mother, every extra shift I worked, every sleepless night, it was all for her. And finally, the day had arrived. I had spent the entire morning getting ready, making sure every detail was perfect. My dress was elegant, but not too flashy. I never wanted to overshadow my daughter on her special day. My hair was styled simply, my makeup natural. I wanted to look nice in the photos, but more than anything, I just wanted to be there, to support her, to share in her joy. The wedding venue was beautiful. A charming garden estate with white roses climbing up trellises and soft lighting strung between the trees. My daughter had chosen it herself, and I had helped pay for it. Actually, I had paid for most of the wedding. As a single mother who had worked my entire life in event planning and hospitality management, I had saved carefully for years, knowing this day would come. I wanted to give her everything I never had. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, and comment what you would do in this situation. I arrived at the venue about 45 minutes before the ceremony was scheduled to begin. I wanted to see my daughter before she walked down the aisle, to have a private moment with her, maybe help her with any last-minute adjustments to her dress or veil. My heart was so full of love and pride, I thought it might burst. But as I approached the entrance, I noticed the wedding organizer, a woman named Patricia whom I had worked with extensively over the past 6 months, rushing toward me with an expression I had never seen on her face before. Patricia was always composed, always professional. We had coordinated hundreds of details together, and she had never looked rattled, until now. "Wait," she called out, her voice sharp with urgency. "Don't go in yet." I stopped in my tracks, my hand frozen on the door handle. "What's wrong? Is everything okay? Is my daughter all right?" Patricia reached me, slightly out of breath, her face flushed and her eyes wide with what looked like panic. Or was it pity? "Just, please, wait here for a moment. There's a situation inside that needs to be handled first." My stomach dropped. What kind of situation? "Patricia, what's going on?" "I need to see my daughter." She glanced back at the venue entrance nervously, as if afraid someone might come out. I know you do. But trust me, you don't want to walk in right now. Not yet. Please, just give me a few minutes. A few minutes." "Patricia, the ceremony starts in less than an hour. What could possibly be so important that I can't go inside to see my own daughter before her wedding?" My voice was rising with anxiety and confusion. Patricia bit her lip, clearly struggling with what to say. "It's not about the ceremony. The ceremony will go on as planned. It's just, there are some people inside who are saying things about you. And I thought you should know before you walked in." The words hit me like a physical blow. Saying things? What things? Who? Leave me in the comments. Have you been through something similar? She hesitated, her professionalism warring with what appeared to be genuine concern. Finally, she said quietly, your daughter's future mother-in-law, and some of her family members. They're inside right now, talking to the guests about you. They're saying terrible things. I felt my face burning with shame and confusion. What are they saying? Patricia looked genuinely distressed. They're telling people that you're not really the mother of the bride, that they called you the help. They're saying your daughter was raised by her father and his family, and that you're just a housekeeper or something who worked for them, and that you're trying to take credit for raising her. The world seemed to tilt beneath my feet. I gripped the doorframe to steady myself. That's not true. That's absolutely not true. I raised my daughter alone from the time she was 2 years old. Her father left us. He wasn't in her life at all until she was in college, and even then, barely. I know, Patricia said quickly. I know that. You and I have spent months planning this wedding together. I've seen how much you love your daughter, how much you've invested in making this day perfect for her. But they're inside right now, poisoning people's minds against you. Some of the guests don't know you, and they're believing what they're hearing. My hands trembled with contained rage. Where is my daughter? Does she know what they're saying? Patricia shook her head. She's in the bridal suite getting ready. I don't think she has any idea. The mother-in-law and her family are in the main reception area with the earlier arriving guests. They're actually laughing about it, making jokes, saying things like, watch the help, try to pretend she's the mother of the bride, and asking people not to embarrass themselves by treating you like family. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I held them back. I had faced too much in my life to fall apart now, not on my daughter's wedding day. But the betrayal cut deep. Not from strangers. I could handle that. But the fact that this was happening at my daughter's wedding, and she apparently had no idea, made me feel sick. I need to talk to my daughter, I said firmly. I can take you to the bridal suite through the back entrance, Patricia offered. You won't have to walk through the reception area. But I have to warn you, if your daughter doesn't know what her future in-laws are doing, telling her now, right before the wedding, it could ruin everything. I closed my eyes, trying to think clearly through the emotional storm raging inside me. Patricia was right. If I told my daughter what was happening, she would be devastated. She might confront them. The wedding could become a disaster. And despite everything, despite the humiliation and the lies being spread about me, I didn't want to ruin my daughter's day. Give it a thumbs up if you think I did the right thing. Take me to see her, I said finally. But I won't tell her. Not yet. I just need to see that she's okay. Patricia nodded and led me around the side of the building to a back entrance. We walked through a service hallway, past the kitchen where caterers were busy preparing the reception meal, and finally to the bridal suite. Patricia knocked softly, and my daughter's voice called out, "Come in." When I walked in, the sight of her took my breath away. She looked absolutely beautiful in her wedding dress, an elegant lace gown with a long train. Her hair was styled in soft curls with small white flowers woven through it. She was radiant, glowing with happiness. When she saw me, her whole face lit up. "Mom, you're here. I was wondering when you'd arrive. Come here, look at my dress. Do you like it? Does everything look okay?" I felt a lump tightening in my throat as I walked over to her. She had no idea what was happening, just rooms away. She was purely, innocently happy, completely trusting that her wedding day would be perfect. How could her future in-laws be so cruel, on today of all days? "You look absolutely beautiful, sweetheart," I said, my voice catching slightly, "like a princess, like everything I ever dreamed you'd be." She hugged me carefully, mindful of her dress and makeup. "I'm so nervous, Mom, but I'm so happy. Thank you for everything. For this wedding, for always being there for me, for being the best mom anyone could ask for. I know it wasn't always easy, raising me alone, but you did an amazing job. I hope I can be half the mother you were to me, if I have kids someday." My heart pounded so hard it hurt. She loved me. She appreciated me. She knew the truth about our life together, about the sacrifices I had made. So why were her future in-laws telling such horrible lies? Did they know the truth and simply didn't care? Or had they been fed false information? Has everything been okay this morning? I asked carefully. With everyone, I mean, with his family. She nodded enthusiastically. Oh, yes. His mother has been so sweet. She gave me this beautiful bracelet to wear, something borrowed, and his sisters helped me with my veil. They've been really welcoming. I was worried at first because, they're pretty wealthy and traditional, and I wasn't sure they'd accept me. But they've been great. I felt my blood boiling with indignation. So they were being sweet to her face while trashing me behind her back. They were two-faced and manipulative, showing one side to my daughter while revealing their true colors to the guests. Comment below what you would have done differently. That's wonderful, honey, I managed to say. I'm so glad you're being welcomed into the family. There was a knock on the door, and the photographer entered. Time for some pre-ceremony photos, if everyone's ready. My daughter squeezed my hand. Will you stay for the photos, Mom? I want some of just you and me, before the ceremony. Of course, I said, blinking back tears. I wouldn't miss it for the world. We spent the next 20 minutes taking photos together. Mother and daughter portraits, me adjusting her veil, the two of us holding hands and smiling. Each photo felt precious and painful at the same time. This was supposed to be a perfect day, but I knew that outside this room, people were talking about me with contempt and disrespect, believing lies about my relationship with my own daughter. When the photographer finally left, my daughter said, I need to finish getting ready with the girls. Can you go check on the guests? Make sure everyone's comfortable and has what they need. You're so good at that kind of thing. My face burned with shame at the innocent request. She had no idea she was sending me directly into the lion's den. But I couldn't refuse without explaining why, and I didn't want to burden her with the truth right now. Of course, sweetheart. I'll make sure everything's perfect. I kissed her forehead and left the bridal suite, my heart heavy with dread. Patricia was waiting in the hallway, and when she saw my expression, she said quietly, You don't have to go out there. I can handle the guests. No, I said firmly. These are people who came to celebrate my daughter's wedding. I won't hide like I'm ashamed. I didn't do anything wrong. Patricia nodded with respect. You're stronger than I would be. But please, if things get uncomfortable, find me. I'll help however I can. I walked down the hallway toward the main reception area, my hands trembling but my head held high. As I approached, I could hear voices and laughter, the normal sounds of wedding guests arriving and mingling. I took a deep breath and pushed open the door. The reception area was beautifully decorated with white roses and soft candlelight, just as my daughter and I had planned. Guests were scattered throughout the space, some seated at the elegantly set tables, others standing in groups, chatting and sipping champagne. I recognized some faces, friends of my daughter from college and work. Others were strangers, presumably from the groom's side of the family. Would you do the same in my place? I had barely taken 3 steps into the room when I heard a loud, aristocratic voice cut through the chatter. Well, look who decided to show up early. Someone should tell her the help doesn't arrive until after the ceremony begins. Laughter erupted from a group near the bar. I turned to see a tall, elegantly dressed woman in her 60s, dripping with jewelry and radiating condescension. I recognized her from photos. This was Margaret, the groom's mother, my daughter's future mother-in-law. She was surrounded by what appeared to be her sisters and several other well-dressed relatives. I felt the floor opening beneath my feet as heads turned toward me. Some guests looked confused, others uncomfortable. A few were actually smirking, clearly in on the joke. Margaret continued, her voice carrying across the room. I suppose someone should have been more clear about the dress code. This isn't a staff meeting, dear. The actual family members wear formal attire. My dress was formal. It was elegant and appropriate. But she was deliberately trying to make me feel inferior, trying to humiliate me in front of everyone. I could feel dozens of eyes on me, judging, wondering. One of her companions, a woman who looked to be her sister, added loudly, "Oh, Margaret, be kind. She probably did the best she could with what she had. After all, housekeepers don't exactly make wedding guest money, do they?" More laughter. Some guests were starting to whisper among themselves, no doubt asking who I was and whether the things being said were true. I stood frozen, my humiliation complete. Every instinct screamed at me to turn and run, to escape this nightmare, but my daughter's words echoed in my mind. "You're the best mom anyone could ask for." I couldn't run. I couldn't let these people make me feel ashamed of who I was and what I had done for my daughter. I walked slowly across the room, trying to maintain my dignity despite the burning sensation in my face and the trembling in my legs. I needed to find a quiet corner, collect myself, figure out how to handle this situation without creating a scene that would ruin my daughter's wedding. But Margaret wasn't done. As I passed near her group, she called out again, "Tell me, dear, when exactly did you work for the family?" I don't recall my son mentioning that his bride's family employed household staff, or are you perhaps confused about your role in the bride's life? Subscribe and hit the bell icon for more stories like this. I stopped walking and turned to face her directly. My heart was racing, but I forced my voice to remain calm and steady. "I'm the mother of the bride." Margaret's perfectly made-up face arranged itself into an expression of exaggerated surprise and amusement. Oh my. Did you hear that? Everyone. She's claiming to be the mother of the bride. How absolutely precious. Her sister chimed in. "Margaret, didn't you tell me the bride was raised by her father's family? Something about the mother abandoning her when she was young?" "That's exactly right," Margaret confirmed loudly, addressing the growing audience of guests who had stopped their own conversations to watch this spectacle. My future daughter-in-law had a very difficult childhood. Her biological mother abandoned her with a nanny when she was just a toddler. The poor girl was essentially raised by hired help until her father's family stepped in. It's a very sad story, really. The lies were so blatant, so vicious, that I could barely breathe through my humiliation. But what made it even worse was watching some of the guests, people who didn't know me or my daughter, nodding along sympathetically, believing every word. "That's not true," I said, my voice stronger now, despite the tears threatening to spill. "I raised my daughter from the time she was 2 years old. Her father left us. I worked 3 jobs to provide for her. I was there for every scraped knee, every school play, every parent-teacher conference. I am her mother in every sense that matters." Margaret waved her hand dismissively, as if shooing away an annoying insect. Yes, I'm sure that's what you've told yourself all these years. How convenient that you've decided to show up now, when there's a wealthy family involved. Tell me, how much did you contribute to this wedding financially? Because my family paid for everything. The venue, the catering, the flowers, all of it. My blood boiled with indignation. That was a lie, too. I had paid for 2/3 of the wedding costs. My daughter and I had sat together, going over the budget, figuring out what we could afford. The groom's family had contributed, yes, but they certainly hadn't paid for everything. Was Margaret lying deliberately, or had my daughter's fiancé misrepresented the financial arrangements to his family? "Actually," I began, but Margaret cut me off. "Please don't embarrass yourself further. We all know the truth. You're just another opportunist trying to attach herself to a family of means. I've seen it 100 times. But let me be very clear. You are not part of this family. You may have convinced my future daughter-in-law to invite you out of some misplaced sense of obligation, but that doesn't make you the mother of the bride. That doesn't give you the right to parade around here acting like you're one of us. How would you act in this situation? Who do you think you are?" One of Margaret's companions added with a sneer, "Coming here in that dress, trying to insert yourself into a celebration you have no part of. Have some dignity and know your place." A cold fury settled over me. These people had no idea who they were dealing with. They saw a woman in her 60s, simply dressed compared to their designer outfits, and assumed I was nothing, nobody, powerless. They thought they could humiliate me without consequences because I appeared to have no social standing, no resources, no ability to fight back. But they were wrong. They had made a terrible miscalculation, and I was about to show them exactly how wrong they were. "You're absolutely right about one thing," I said quietly, my voice now ice-cold and perfectly controlled. We do need to be clear about the truth, about who everyone is and what role they play. I think it's time we had that conversation. Margaret looked slightly taken aback by my change in tone, but she quickly recovered, laughing mockingly. Oh, this should be entertaining. Please, do enlighten us. Tell us all about your important role in my daughter-in-law's life. I will, I said. But first, let me clarify something. You said your family paid for everything. This venue, the catering, all the arrangements. Is that correct? Of course it is. We spared no expense for our son's wedding. Interesting, I said, reaching into my purse and pulling out my phone. Patricia, could you come here, please? The wedding organizer appeared almost immediately. She had clearly been hovering nearby, worried about the confrontation she had witnessed. Yes. Patricia, could you please clarify for everyone here who paid for this wedding? I want to make sure we're all operating with accurate information. Patricia looked extremely uncomfortable, glancing between me and Margaret. Well, the bride's mother paid for approximately 65% of the wedding costs. The groom's family contributed 35%. Margaret's face flushed red. That's impossible. My son told me we were covering everything. I have all the invoices and payment records if you'd like to see them, Patricia said nervously. The majority of payments came from the bride's mother. The venue deposit, the catering, most of the florals, the photography package, all paid by her. Leave me in the comments. Have you been through something similar? The guests were murmuring now, their expressions shifting from judgment to confusion to embarrassment. Some of them were starting to look at Margaret with skepticism instead of support, but I wasn't finished, not even close. Now that we've established that I did, in fact, pay for most of my daughter's wedding, let's address the other lies you've been spreading, I continued. About me abandoning my daughter, about being hired help, about being an opportunist trying to attach myself to your family's wealth. I don't have to listen to this, Margaret said haughtily. You're nobody. You're nothing. Security should remove you from this venue. Actually, I said, my voice now carrying across the entire room, silencing all other conversations, you probably shouldn't threaten to have me removed from this venue. Since I own it, the silence that followed was absolute. Every eye in the room was fixed on me, including Margaret's, which had gone wide with shock. What did you say? She whispered. I owned this venue, I repeated clearly. This garden estate, the building we're standing in, the grounds, all of it. It's mine. I purchased it 15 years ago as an investment property. I've been running it as an event venue ever since. I have hosted hundreds of weddings here, but this is the first one I've hosted for my own daughter. Patricia nodded vigorously. It's true. She's the owner. I work for her. I've been her employee for 8 years. Do you think I overreacted? Margaret's mouth opened and closed soundlessly, like a fish gasping for air. Her companions had gone pale, their earlier smirking confidence completely evaporated. Around the room, guests were staring at me with new understanding and not a small amount of horror at what they had just witnessed. You see, I continued, my voice calm but carrying an edge of steel, you made some very inaccurate assumptions about me. You assumed that because I dress modestly and speak plainly, I must be poor and powerless. You assumed that because I worked hard to raise my daughter alone, I must be uneducated and low class. But you were wrong on every count. I worked in event planning and hospitality management for 30 years, I went on. I started as a waitress and worked my way up to director of operations for one of the largest event management companies in the state. I saved every penny I could. I invested wisely. And when this property came on the market 15 years ago, I bought it. It's been my business ever since, and it's been very successful. Margaret had now gone from red to white, her earlier confidence completely shattered. I didn't know. My son never mentioned your son probably didn't know, I said, because I don't talk about my business holdings with everyone I meet. I don't feel the need to wave my financial status around to prove my worth. My worth comes from the life I built, the daughter I raised, and the respect I've earned through decades of hard work and integrity. I turned to address the room at large, making eye contact with as many guests as possible. I apologize that you all had to witness this unpleasant confrontation. This should have been a day of pure celebration. But I will not stand by while someone lies about my relationship with my daughter, while someone tries to humiliate me and erase my role in my child's life. I raised my daughter alone from the time she was 2 years old, I said, my voice firm and clear. Her father left us with nothing. I worked 3 jobs to put food on the table and clothes on her back. I helped her with her homework every night after working 12-hour shifts. I attended every school event, every recital, every game. I paid for her education. I supported her dreams. And when she fell in love and wanted to get married, I did everything in my power to give her the wedding she deserved. Tears were now streaming down my face, but I didn't care. These were not tears of shame, but of righteous anger and profound love for my daughter. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, and comment what you would do in this situation. I am her mother, I said, my voice breaking slightly, not because of biology alone, but because of every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every moment of joy and fear and pride I've experienced watching her grow into the incredible woman she is today. And no one, not you or anyone else, has the right to diminish that or take it away from me. The room was completely silent. Several guests were crying openly now, moved by my words. Others looked ashamed, realizing they had participated in or witnessed a terrible injustice. Margaret, who moments before had been so confident and cruel, now looked smaller somehow, diminished by the truth that had been revealed. I apologize, she said quietly, though the words sounded forced and insincere. I was given incorrect information about the family situation. I didn't mean to offend. You meant exactly what you said, I replied coldly. You wanted to humiliate me and put me in what you considered my place. You wanted these guests to see me as beneath them, beneath you. You wanted to establish a hierarchy where you and your family were at the top and I was nowhere to be seen. But you made one critical mistake. What's that? Margaret asked, her voice barely audible. You underestimated me. You assumed that power and worth only come from inherited wealth and social position. But real power comes from character, from resilience, from the ability to build something from nothing. I have that power. I've always had it. And you just learned that lesson in the most humiliating way possible. One of Margaret's companions, the woman who had made snide comments about housekeepers, stepped forward hesitantly. We're truly sorry. We shouldn't have said those things. We didn't know the full story. The full story shouldn't matter, I said sharply. Even if I were a housekeeper, even if I had worked for my daughter's father's family, even if every lie you told had been true, I would still deserve basic human respect. You didn't mock me because you thought I was lying about being the mother of the bride. You mocked me because you thought I was poor and powerless. That says everything about your character and nothing about mine. Comment below what you would have done differently. At that moment, the door to the hallway opened, and my daughter walked in with her bridesmaids, ready for the ceremony to begin. She looked radiant and happy, completely unaware of the drama that had just unfolded. When she saw the crowded room, silent and tense, her smile faltered. Is everything okay? She asked, looking between me and Margaret with confusion. Mom, what's going on? I quickly wiped my tears and arranged my face into a smile. Everything's fine, sweetheart. We were just having a conversation with the guests. You look absolutely beautiful. Are you ready? She studied my face carefully, clearly sensing that something was wrong but unsure what. Mom, are you crying? What happened? Before I could answer, Patricia stepped forward smoothly. Just emotional mother of the bride moments. You know how weddings are. Everyone's a little overwhelmed with happiness. Should we start seating the guests for the ceremony? My daughter looked uncertain, glancing around the room at the awkward expressions and averted gazes. She was smart. She knew something had happened, but this was her wedding day, and I was not going to let it be ruined by Margaret's cruelty and lies. Your mom and I were just talking about how proud we are of you, Margaret suddenly interjected, her voice artificially warm and her smile forced. "About what a lovely wedding this is and how beautiful everything looks. Isn't that right?" She looked at me desperately, clearly hoping I would play along, that I would preserve the peace for the sake of the wedding. Part of me wanted to refuse, wanted to tell my daughter everything right then and there. But I looked at my girl, so beautiful in her wedding dress, so hopeful and excited, and I couldn't do it. "That's right," I said softly. "We were just saying how perfect everything is." My daughter relaxed slightly, though she still looked suspicious. "Okay. Well, I guess it's time then. Mom, are you ready to walk me down the aisle?" My heart swelled with love and pride. "I've been ready for this moment since the day you were born. Give it a thumbs up if you think I did the right thing." As the guests began filing out to take their seats in the garden ceremony space, Margaret approached me with her group of relatives trailing behind her. Up close, she looked older, more fragile, the weight of her humiliation aging her in real time. "What are you going to do?" she asked quietly. "Are you going to tell her what happened? Are you going to ruin the wedding?" I looked at her for a long moment, this woman who had tried so hard to diminish me, to erase me, to take away the one thing in my life that mattered more than anything else. I could destroy her relationship with my daughter right now. I could expose her cruelty and her lies. I could turn my daughter against her new mother-in-law before the marriage even began. But what would that accomplish? It would hurt my daughter. It would taint her memories of this day forever. And I had spent 25 years protecting my daughter from pain. I wasn't going to stop now. "I'm not going to tell her," I said finally. "Not today. Today is about her happiness, not your mistakes. But understand this, Margaret, from this moment forward, you will treat me with respect. You will never, ever speak about me the way you did today. You will never spread lies about my relationship with my daughter. And if you ever try to come between me and my child, if you ever try to diminish my role in her life again, I will make sure she knows exactly what kind of person you really are. Do we have an understanding?" Margaret nodded quickly, relief washing over her face. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. I promise. It will never happen again." "It better not," I said coldly. "Because while I chose to be merciful today, I will not be so generous a second time. I've built everything I have through hard work and determination. I've overcome obstacles you couldn't even imagine, and I will not let you or anyone else threaten what matters most to me. My daughter loves me, and she trusts me. Don't ever forget that." I turned and walked away, leaving Margaret and her family standing there looking shaken and chastened. As I made my way to where my daughter was waiting, I felt a strange mixture of emotions. Anger at the injustice of what had happened. Satisfaction at having stood up for myself and revealed the truth. But mostly, overwhelming love for my daughter and determination to make sure her wedding day was everything she dreamed it would be. The ceremony was beautiful. I walked my daughter down the aisle as the sun set behind us, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. I placed her hand in her new husband's and took my seat in the front row, tears of joy streaming down my face. The vows were heartfelt, the music perfect, the moment magical. Subscribe and hit the bell icon for more stories like this. During the reception, several guests approached me privately to apologize for their reactions earlier, for believing the lies they had been told, for not standing up for me. I accepted their apologies graciously. They had been manipulated by Margaret, and most of them were good people who felt genuinely ashamed of their behavior. One woman, a friend of the groom's family, said to me quietly, "What you said in there, about real power coming from character and resilience, that really struck me. I've spent my whole life judging people by their money and social status. But watching how you handled that situation, with such dignity and strength, it made me realize how wrong I've been. You're a remarkable woman. Thank you," I said simply. "But I'm not remarkable. I'm just a mother who loves her daughter, and wasn't willing to let anyone disrespect that love." As the evening went on, I watched my daughter dance with her new husband, laughing and radiant with happiness. She had no idea how close her wedding had come to being ruined by her new mother-in-law's cruelty. She didn't know about the lies that had been spread or the confrontation that had taken place. And that was exactly how I wanted it. Margaret kept her distance from me for the rest of the evening, though I noticed her watching me occasionally with a mixture of resentment and fear. Good. Let her be afraid. Let her remember that underestimating people based on appearances and assumptions was a mistake that could have serious consequences. Near the end of the reception, my daughter found me sitting at a table, watching the celebration with a contented smile. She sat down beside me and took my hand. "Mom, I know something happened today. Before the ceremony, I could see it on your face, and several guests have been acting weird around me all night. Will you tell me what it was?" I looked at my beautiful daughter, now a married woman starting her own life, and I made a decision. Not today, but soon. I would tell her the truth about what her mother-in-law had done. She deserved to know the kind of person she was dealing with. She deserved to understand the dynamics she was marrying into. But not tonight. Tonight was for joy. "Nothing that can't wait," I said, squeezing her hand. "Today was about celebrating your love and your future. And it was perfect, wasn't it?" She studied my face carefully, then nodded slowly. "It was perfect. But Mom, if someone hurt you or said something to you, I want to know. You're my mother. You're the most important person in my life. If someone disrespected you, especially today, I need to know who it was. Would you do the same in my place?" My heart swelled with love for her. Even on her wedding day, even in the midst of her own happiness, she was thinking about me, wanting to protect me the way I had always protected her. "I promise I'll tell you everything," I said. "Just not tonight. Tonight is yours. Let's not let anything diminish that." She hugged me tightly, and I held my daughter the way I had held her 1,000 times throughout her life. Through scraped knees and teenage heartbreaks and triumphant achievements, she was mine, my girl, and no amount of money or social status or cruel lies could change that. As the reception wound down and guests began to leave, many of them stopped by to thank me and congratulate me. Several commented on how beautiful the venue was, not knowing that they were complimenting my property, my business, my success. I smiled and accepted their compliments graciously, amused by the irony. Patricia found me as I was preparing to leave. "That was the most incredible thing I've ever witnessed," she said, her eyes shining tinter novamen tenkens for tweer admiration. "The way you handled that situation, the way you stood up for yourself without destroying the wedding, it was amazing. I've worked in this industry for years, and I've never seen anything like it." "Thank you, Patricia," I said warmly. "And thank you for trying to warn me, for trying to protect me. You didn't have to do that." "Of course I did," she replied. "You're not just my employer. You're one of the most decent people I've ever met. Watching those people mock you and spread lies about you, it made me sick. I'm just glad you were able to set the record straight." "So am I agreed. "Though I wish it hadn't been necessary. I wish people could just treat each other with basic respect, regardless of perceived social status or wealth." Patricia nodded. "That woman, Margaret, she left about 20 minutes ago. She looked absolutely mortified. Her whole family did. I don't think they'll be showing their faces around here again anytime soon." "Good," I said firmly. "Maybe this experience will teach them something about making assumptions and spreading malicious lies. Though I doubt it, people like that rarely learn." "How would you act in this situation?" As I drove home that night, I replayed the events of the day in my mind. The joy of seeing my daughter as a bride, the shock and humiliation of Margaret's attack, the satisfaction of revealing the truth and watching her face when she realized who I really was, the difficult decision to protect my daughter's happiness by not exposing the full extent of her new mother-in-law's cruelty. It had been one of the most emotionally exhausting days of my life. But it had also been a day of victory. I had faced down my tormentors. I had defended my dignity and my relationship with my daughter, and I had done it all while ensuring that my daughter's wedding remained the beautiful, joyful celebration she deserved. The following week, my daughter and her new husband returned from their honeymoon. She called me immediately and asked to meet for lunch. I knew from her tone that this was going to be the conversation I had been both expecting and dreading. We met at a small cafe near her new apartment. She looked tanned and relaxed from the honeymoon, but her expression was serious as she sat down across from me. "Okay, Mom," she said without preamble. "I want to know what happened at my wedding. And don't tell me it was nothing, because I've spent the past week piecing things together from comments people have made, and I know something serious went down." I took a deep breath and told her everything. About arriving at the venue and being stopped by Patricia, about the lies Margaret had been spreading to the guests, about the cruel comments and mockery, about the confrontation and the revelation about who I really was, about the decision I had made to keep it from her on her wedding day. As I spoke, I watched my daughter's face transform from confusion to shock to fury. By the time I finished, tears were streaming down her cheeks, but they were tears of rage, not sadness. "She said those things about you," my daughter whispered, her voice shaking. "She told people you abandoned me, that you were just hired help. How dare she? How dare she?" "Sweetheart, I didn't want to tell you like this. I didn't want to upset you or cause problems in your marriage. Problems in my marriage," she interrupted, her voice rising. "Mom, that woman tried to humiliate you at my wedding. She spread vicious lies about you to my guests. She tried to erase you from my life story. And you protected me by not telling me, even though you had every right to expose her right then and there. Leave me in the comments. Have you been through something similar?" She reached across the table and gripped my hands tightly. "You have been there for me every single day of my life. You worked yourself to exhaustion to provide for me. You sacrificed everything to give me opportunities you never had. And I let that woman disrespect you without even knowing it was happening." "You didn't let anything happen," I said firmly. "You didn't know. And that's exactly what I wanted. I didn't want your wedding day ruined by her malice." "But it should have been ruined," my daughter said fiercely. "Or at least, she should have been thrown out. Mom, you owned that venue. You could have had her removed. You could have canceled the whole wedding. But you didn't, because you were thinking about me, about my happiness, just like you always have." She wiped her tears angrily. "I need to talk to my husband. He needs to know what his mother did. And she needs to apologize to you properly. Not just because she got caught in her lies, but because she genuinely understands how wrong she was." "I don't need her apology," I said honestly. "I don't need anything from her. I just need you to know the truth, and I need her to never treat me that way again." "She won't," my daughter promised darkly. "Because if she ever says one more word against you, if she ever tries anything like that again, she will never see me or any future grandchildren. I mean that, Mom. I will cut her out of my life completely." I felt a lump tightening in my throat at her fierce loyalty. "I don't want to come between you and your husband's family." "You're not coming between anyone," she interrupted. "She did this. She created this situation with her cruelty and her lies. And she's going to face the consequences. My husband needs to know what kind of person his mother really is. He needs to understand that I will not tolerate anyone, not even his family, disrespecting my mother." Over the following days, my daughter had several difficult conversations with her husband and his family. Her husband, to his credit, was horrified when he learned what his mother had done. He had apparently told his mother that his family had paid for most of the wedding because he was embarrassed that my daughter and I had contributed more than his wealthy family. He had created the lie that Margaret had then built upon and expanded with her own malicious additions. He apologized to me profusely, both in writing and in person. He was genuinely ashamed and remorseful. Margaret, on the other hand, offered only a stiff, formal apology that felt more like it was coerced than sincere. But I accepted it anyway, because my daughter asked me to, and because I wanted peace for her sake. Do you think I overreacted? The situation created a permanent shift in the family dynamics. Margaret never quite recovered her confidence around me. She was always formal, always careful, always aware that I was not someone she could dismiss or disrespect without consequences. Her family members who had participated in the mockery were similarly chastened, treating me with an almost exaggerated politeness that was somewhat amusing. But more importantly, my daughter's respect and appreciation for me deepened. She had always loved me and been grateful for what I had done for her, but seeing someone try to diminish and erase my role in her life made her realize just how much I meant to her, just how much I had sacrificed, just how strong I had been through all the years we had struggled together. "You know what I realized, Mom?" she said to me one day, several months after the wedding. "I grew up thinking we were poor. I thought we had less than everyone else. But we weren't poor. We were rich in all the ways that actually matter. I had a mother who loved me unconditionally. I had security and support and encouragement. I had someone who believed in me and pushed me to reach for my dreams. The kids whose parents had money but were never around, who were raised by nannies and sent to boarding schools, they were the poor ones, not us. Never us." Tears welled up in my eyes at her words. "That's the kindest thing you've ever said to me." "It's the truth," she insisted. "And I'm sorry I didn't fully understand it until now. I'm sorry I didn't appreciate it enough. But I do now, Mom. I understand exactly what you gave me, and I will spend the rest of my life being grateful for it." The story spread through my daughter's social circle and, eventually, through the broader community. People who had been at the wedding and witnessed the confrontation told others about it. The tale of the wealthy mother-in-law who had mocked and humiliated the bride's mother, only to discover that the woman she was mocking actually owned the venue and had paid for most of the wedding, became something of a local legend. Give it a thumbs up if you think I did the right thing. I received several calls from local news outlets asking to interview me about the incident. I declined them all. This wasn't about publicity or vindication. It was about protecting my relationship with my daughter and standing up for my dignity. I had done both, and that was enough. My business actually benefited from the notoriety. However, more people wanted to book events at my venue, curious to meet the woman from the story. I hired additional staff to handle the increased demand and expanded my services to include full event planning, not just venue rental. Patricia got a well-deserved promotion to operations manager. Margaret's social standing, on the other hand, suffered considerably. The story reflected poorly on her character and judgment, and several of her social circle friends quietly distanced themselves from her. She and her husband took an extended trip to Europe, presumably to escape the gossip and give the scandal time to die down. My relationship with my son-in-law improved significantly. He went out of his way to include me in family events and to make sure I felt respected and valued. He called me regularly just to chat, something he had never done before. He was trying to make up for his mother's behavior and his own role in creating the situation, and I appreciated his efforts. "I want you to know something," he said to me during one of our conversations. "I chose to marry your daughter because she's kind, intelligent, hardworking, and has incredible integrity. And now I understand where she got all of those qualities. She learned them from you. You raised an amazing woman, and I'm honored to be her husband." "Thank you," I said, genuinely touched. "That means more to me than you know. I trust you to take care of her, to support her dreams, to be the partner she deserves. And I trust you not to let your mother or anyone else come between you and your wife." "Never," he promised. What happened at the wedding? It opened my eyes to some things about my family that I had been blind to. The way they judge people based on money and status. The way they look down on anyone they consider beneath them. It's wrong. And I don't want to be like that. I don't want to raise children who think that way. Comment below what you would have done differently. Looking back on that day now, several years later, I have complex feelings about what happened. Part of me wishes it had never occurred, that my daughter's wedding could have been purely joyful without the shadow of that confrontation. Part of me is glad it happened, because it forced important truths into the open and strengthened my relationship with my daughter in unexpected ways. But mostly, I'm proud of how I handled it. I could have responded with pure emotion, with rage and vindictiveness. I could have destroyed the wedding and created a permanent rift in my daughter's new family. Or I could have stayed silent, let the lies stand, and allowed myself to be diminished and erased. Instead, I found a middle path. I stood up for myself and revealed the truth, but I did it in a way that protected my daughter's happiness. I claimed my dignity without sacrificing hers. I showed strength without cruelty, power without destruction. That's what real strength looks like, I think. Not the ability to dominate or humiliate others, but the ability to stand firm in your truth, while still considering the well-being of the people you love.